Ah yes, Heretic. A delightful little film from A24 Films, a studio that rarely, if ever, disappoints. A film that tries to blend psychological thrills and religious critique and keeps you on the edge of your seat wondering what will come next. But after a while the film starts having trouble juggling all these different elements. It almost makes you wonder if the scriptwriters were just making it up as they went along. And you know what? You're right to wonder. Come, gather round and let's take a deep dive into what could have been the most intellectual film of 2024. Greetings and salutations, dear viewers. Welcome to my little part of the interwebs, where I dissect films with the precision of a surgeon, except when it's a movie like Heretic, and I just kind of throw the scalpel across the room and hope for the best. In this first installment, we're diving into Heretic, the 2024 psychological thriller that's definitely something. It has everything. A brilliant Hugh Grant performance, some moments that'll make you think, but why? And how? And of course the kind of ending that makes you question every life choice you've ever made. Seriously, if you're into unresolved mysteries and plot contrivances the size of a black hole, this movie was made for you. Let us begin with the positives, because frankly they are a lot easier to find in this film than the plot makes it seem. The first act is well defined. There's some nice suspense building, a wonderful array of thought-provoking moments, and you can almost convince yourself you're watching a deep film about faith, belief, and human nature. The discussions the movie brings up in its first half are actually worth considering. If only the film could have stuck with them instead of veering off into lunacy. Then, there's the star of this would-be horror show. Hugh Grant. Yes, I'm serious. That Hugh Grant. The man known for playing lovable stammering British guys in rom-coms has taken on a number of delightful characters in his twilight years, in a variety of genres that contrast strongly with most of his prior career. He was a backstabbing private detective in the gangster film The Gentleman, a cunning rogue out for power in the fantasy Dungeons and Dragons. And now he has turned his gaze to horror, where he portrays whatever the hell he is in this movie. Is he a psychopathic villain, a free thinker testing the faith of believers, or just a confused middle-aged man in a cardigan who got lost while trying to film a different movie? Who knows? What I can tell you is that his performance is mesmerizing. There's a constant tension in every scene he's in. You can't look away. Grant portrays Mr. Reed, an elderly gentleman that answers the door to some Mormon missionaries. But instead of letting them peddle their theological wares, he instead eloquently meanders on about his studies in religions of every stripe and color. Every now and then he pops out for a bit to check in on his lovely wife who is laboring away in the kitchen creating a pie. It is in these short moments of absence when the two Mormon girls share their fears of the situation and eventually cause them to panic. Especially once they realize they might be trapped and have to endure whatever puzzles and riddles Mr. Reed poses to them. If Heretic was just 2 hours of Hugh Grant discussing religious history and logical arguments, I'd probably still watch it, because honestly, he's the only thing holding this film together. Then there's the movie's handling of faith and religion. In the first act, you get the sense that the filmmakers might actually be trying to say something insightful about religious plagiarism and zealotry. I am most impressed. Very nice. Much wow. But then the movie decides just to pivot halfway through and dive into, but wait, atheists are the real bad guys. One would not be amiss in assuming they wanted to make a deep, multi-layered commentary, but accidentally derailed into a half-hearted B-movie horror concerning cults, the occult, and lackluster jump scares. Now you're probably wondering, if the film starts off so splendidly, what might possibly go wrong? I'm glad you asked. The moment that starts the suspense and let the girls think something is off about dear Mr. Reed shouldn't. He just tells them how he studied every religion and cult he could find, and he eventually found what he believes is the one true religion. This should not put them ill at ease at all, because he did not say or insinuate in any way that what he found wasn't Mormonism. In fact, he even showed them a well-worn copy of the Book of Mormon. And isn't their whole purpose to convert people of other religions or those without faith? So either he already is a Mormon of some shade, or he isn't. In the case of the latter, it is their prerogative to attempt to convert him, is it not? And he doesn't come across as scary. He comes across as a refined gentleman from the 1920s, showing a woman the logical errors in her thinking by posing logical thought experiments and puzzles. He debates, he lectures, he compares the different religious holy books to different Monopoly versions. Seriously, up until the moment when he actually tricks them into going into the basement and locking the door, there is nothing that should point them to this being anything other than a lonely old man discussing theology. But I am remiss. It does occur to me that I have neglected to discuss in detail our fair protagonists. Enter Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, two Mormon missionaries going door to door spreading the Lord's seed to the unconverted. Sister Barnes converted to Mormonism a few years ago and now is a true believer, whereas Sister Paxton was born into it, but it increasingly becomes clear that she is more in it just for the culture and appearances, but don't actually believe. This becomes important later when they are forced to make decisions based on the strength of their belief. And as their beliefs are tested, it falters in one, but ignites in the other. Barnes disbelieves Mr. Reed's experiments at first and finds his arguments offensive, but he eventually turns to using logical and rational scientific explanations to counter his claims. Whereas Paxton at first goes along with his argument, but turns to her religious teachings to find strength throughout the ordeal. Which is why he eventually chooses to kill Barnes, and continues to attempt to recruit or convert the now religious Paxton to whatever his true religion is. The movie thinks it's building up to something, some huge jaw-dropping conclusion that's going to tie everything together in a neat little bow. Unfortunately, that bow never gets tied. Instead, the movie just kind of stops. Like literally. There's this big nonsensical revelation that the film thinks explains all of the villain's actions up to this point, but instead of any kind of satisfying conclusion, we get a random, abrupt act of violence. Like, oh hey, here's the protagonist, and they just stab the antagonist. And then she runs away for a few seconds, and then he suddenly teleports behind her and stabs her. But not to worry. Her dead friend, Sister Barnes, who had her throat cut, resurrects. By the power of God or the magic blueberry pie, we don't know. She just kills him and then she dies again, because that's what the plot needs to happen. That's fine, I guess. Not really. Anyway, there's no setup, no emotional payoff. Just a kill and then... Seriously, could have cut out the last 10 minutes and end on a cliffhanger. And the movie would have been more satisfying. And that's not even the worst of it. The movie doesn't just leave you with an unsatisfying ending. Oh no. It makes sure you're left with about 100 different questions that you'll never get answers to. Was it all planned or did he make it up as he went along? How did someone come into the room, move the table, open the super noisy rusty iron trapdoor, move the body down the stairs, close the noisy trapdoor, and move the table again, all done silently and just in a few minutes? And what about the drugged out slave girls in the back room? Is it a cult? Are they previous missionaries that went through the same ordeal? And what is the purpose of it all? Honestly, I've had more closure from an episode of The Twilight Zone. So, all in all, if I had to pick one redeeming feature in this otherwise questionable movie, it's this. Hugh Grant. Again. Look, this guy is clearly operating on a completely different level here. I don't know what kind of sorcery he's using to bring so much depth to a character that in the script was probably just meant to be your run-of-the-mill creepy old man. But I'm impressed. Seriously, someone should get Hugh Grant an Oscar for best performance in a movie that's just too confused to know what it wants to be. So in conclusion, Heretic is a movie that starts with a solid foundation, builds some intriguing tension, and then absolutely crashes into a wall of incoherence. It's like a gourmet meal that suddenly gets served with a side of who knows what, I don't know. It's confusing, frustrating, and a little bit silly. And yet, Hugh Grant makes it worth watching. Why? Because Hugh Grant deserves at least that much for his performance. The rest, well, it's a bit of a mess really. But at least it gave me something to talk about. But hey, what do you think? Did you manage to make sense of the ending? Do you agree with me, or are you one of the people who think the film is a misunderstood masterpiece? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's argue about it. And before you go, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, and remember to stay hydrated so you won't miss my next sarcastic rant about the movie. This might even become a regular thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time, if I'm not too busy trying to figure out what happened in Heretic's final 10 minutes.